Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. Text number 33 and 34 do not have purport, so I will read the text and translation, and then we shall recite text number 35 together. Text 33. So this is 3rd canto, 16th chapter, entitled Jaya and Vijaya, cursed by the sages. Text 33. Tau tu girvana rishabhau dustarad lokatah hatashriyau brahmashapad vigatasmayau. Translation. But those two gatekeepers, the best of the demigods, their beauty and luster, diminished by the curse of the Brahmanas, became morose and fell from Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. Text 34. Tada Vikuntha Dhishanat Tayor Nipatamanayho Hahakaro Mahanasid Vimanagreshu Putraka. Translation. Then as Jaya and Vijaya fell from the Lord's abode, a great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods who were sitting in their splendid airplanes. Now text number 35, kindly repeat. Taveva hi aduna prapto Taveva hi aduna prapto Parshada pravarau harehe Parshada pravarau harehe Diter jathara nirvishtam Diter jathara nirvishtam Kashyapam teja ulbanam Kashyapam teja ulbanam Taveva hi aduna praptau Parshada pravarau harehe Diter jathara nirvishtam काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम् तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः दितेर्जठरनिर्विष्टम् काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
तावेव यदुना प्राप्तो
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
पार्षदप्रवरो हरेः
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः
दितेर्जठरनिर्दिष्टम् काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
तावेव यदुना प्राप्तौ
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
पार्षदप्रवरो हरेः
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः दितेर्जठरनिर्विष्टम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः
जठरनिर्विष्टम्
दितेर्जठरनिर्विष्टम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम् माताजी
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
तावेव ह्यधुना प्राप्तौ
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः
पार्षदप्रवरौ हरेः
दितेर्जठरनिर्विष्टम्
दितेर्जठरनिर्विष्टम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम्
काश्यपं तेज उल्बणम् Word to word meanings. Tau, those two doorkeepers. Eva, certainly. He, addressed. Aduna, now. Praptau, having gotten. Parshada Pravarau, important associates. Harehe, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ditehe, of Diti. Jathara, womb. Nirvishtam, entering. Kashyapam, of Kashyapa Muni. Tejaha, semen. Ulbanam, very strong. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Brahma continued. Those two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of Diti, the powerful semen of Kashyapa Muni having covered them. Purport. Here is clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuntha Loka is engaged in material elements. The living entity takes shelter within the semen of a father, which is injected within the womb of a mother, and with the help of the mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity grows a particular type of body. In this connection, it is to be remembered that the mind of Kashyapa Muni was not in order when he conceived the two sons Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, the semen he discharged was simultaneously extremely powerful and mixed with the quality of anger. It is to be concluded that while conceiving a child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. For this purpose, the Garbhadhana Samskara is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. If the mind of the father is not sober, the semen discharged will not be very good. Thus, the living entity wrapped in the matter produced from the father and mother will be demoniac like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The conditions of conception are to be carefully studied. This is a very great science. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanitanscha Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now the episode of the four Kumaras and the doorkeepers Jaya and Vijaya and the Lord's appearance. So it has come to an end, and the next destination, as we see, is going ahead. So as per the curse given by the sages and the fact that it was ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the next destination of these two doorkeepers, which is the material world, so is taking place now. We see that. So here the point being discussed is that we have already discussed that how these two doorkeepers, so they were supposed to take birth in demoniac families as demons, may not be in demoniac families, but as demons, and they were supposed to be the epitome of all bad qualities, of demonic qualities, and we see that history repeats their names whenever we have to describe or whenever we discuss demoniac qualities. So here in particular we see that how these demons, they take birth, the material activity, the material means of how that takes place. So first point that Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport is that, so how a living entity originally coming from Vaikuntha is engaged in material elements. So we understand that living entity is pure, uncontaminated. There is no tinge of contamination in the pure state of living entity. But when the living entity comes in the material world, we all come to the material world in conditioned state. I should speak of myself. Maybe you all may not be so. But anyways, conditioned living entities, when they come to the material world, so they take on this foreign nature. They are engaged in material elements. So which is not natural for them. So yesterday we were hearing that lecture of Srila Prabhupada, where again he was so much painstakingly explained this point again and again, that how the body is different from the soul. That is the basic instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Very important point to understand. But unfortunately in the present society, so it has been drilled into us that there is no such thing as a spirit soul who is driving this body. It is just matter, it is chemicals, and somehow we have come into being by some chemical arrangement. So according to Bhagavad Gita, this is a demoniac understanding. We see in the 16th chapter it is described there. Someone remembers that verse? That Kimanyat Kama Haitukam. So it is described there in Bhagavad Gita that this material world, Aparaspara Sambhutam Kimanyat Kama Haitukam. So the only cause behind this material world is the sexual intercourse, and there is no other superior cause. So similarly we can understand that modern scientists are also following this demoniac understanding only. The point made in the Bhagavad Gita verse is that these demons, they don't think that there is a superior cause, or that there is an eternal spirit soul. So their only understanding is that somehow or other do sense gratification, and we ourselves, whatever we want, we can do by our strength, by our power. Whatever we want, we control. I am the controller. So that point comes back again. The materialistic tendency of coming to the material world. So thinking that I am the controller, whatever I want, I can do. So the modern scientific understanding is based on this this parameter, that there is no need of God in the picture, there is no need of a controller. Whatever we want, we can achieve by our intelligence, by our strength. Whatever we want is in our hands. I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. Because if you keep the controller or the Supreme Lord somewhere in picture, then you are forced to be accountable for your actions. And then there is discussion of vice and virtue, sin and piety. And consequently, we have to become responsible for our actions, and then a responsible behavior will have to be expected. But if you remove the supreme controller, if you remove God from the picture, so then the matter becomes very straightforward. Then whatever you want, you can enjoy. So we can engage unlimitedly in sense gratification, and whatever is our necessity, we can fulfill, or so-called necessity. Whatever we think our wants. In economics, they have some understanding that wants and needs, they differentiate between them. But anyways, we understand that in the present demonic society, so this nature of greediness and unnecessary requirements so has been drilled into us by this capitalistic economic system. So manufacture unnecessary goods and articles, and then make good propaganda, with lots of advertisements, and make people feel that until and unless they acquire those things, those articles, there is something incomplete in them. So even things which are very useless in nature, and in fact things which are actually detrimental to our existence, so even such things go on as necessities, and people go on. We see so much advertisement of tobacco and alcohol and everywhere. And somehow we recently experienced that our previous place where we were staying, so a bar came nearby and we had to shift because of that. So the point is that there were so many customers for the bar. Everyone wants that only, although they understand that it's a social nuisance, and they understand that it is a real botheration for them, for their social life. But still, as soon as their day is over and they think of little relaxing, the first thing that comes to their mind is this kind of intoxication, and they take help of that. So despite understanding, so they are seeing that this is not their requirement, this is not their necessity, and it is detrimental, but still they are so attached. So this is foolishness. Example, Muda. So they still go blindly in sense gratification without being able to control their mind and intelligence. And like that they go on carried away by the glamour of this so-called sense gratification, which ultimately doesn't satisfy them also. But still these things go on. So anyways, we were discussing that how this demonic nature and present society is under the grip of this demonic nature. And the demonic idea is that I am behind everything, I am the controller. Ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham bhagavan sukhi. So I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, so everything is in my hands. So like that, so this is the understanding of modern scientific theories also. We were discussing that modern scientific advancement, modern scientific understanding is also demonic in nature. If we compare, if we see the instructions of the Shastra of Bhagavad Gita, so it is clearly understood that such conclusions they come from, they are of demonic nature. So like that, so we understand that first thing is that there is a controller and that we are eternal spirit souls. So modern science also goes on that there is no spirit soul. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave so many examples so many times in his lectures and even in his books, in his writings. The most common example he gave was that of a car and a driver. So that how there is always a driver who is driving this. We expect that a driver is there in the car. Yesterday also we were hearing that lecture. Prabhupada gave this example again. So a foolish child may think that This car is going on its own without any animal or without anyone pulling it. But an intelligent person knows that there is certainly a driver inside the car who is controlling the car, who is driving it, and like that. So this is childish and foolish to think like that. So similarly, this material body, so is also Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Maya. This is also an equipment, a machine, Yantra Rudhani. So which is given to us by the arrangement of the material nature. And the driver, the soul, so is also there. Until and unless the driver is there, so how can the living symptoms be manifest? So again, yesterday's lecture that we heard Srila Prabhupada, there are so many parallels. So he gave that example that how the water in this world, material world, there is gigantic amount of water. So it is because of the inconceivable energy of the Supreme. So just like we perspire and our body also produces water. So similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Virata Purusha form, so his perspiration is manifested as these big oceans, the Garbhodaka ocean and all the different oceans of this material world. So that is his inconceivable strength, that we can produce some little water by our perspiration, few drops of water. But the Supreme Personality, he is infinite, Anor Aniyan, Mahato Mahiyan. So he can become infinitesimal and at the same time he can become infinite also. So he is unlimited and we are infinitesimal parts and parcels of him. So we can understand by this analogy that he can produce, and there is nothing wonderful in him producing so much vast quantities of water. So like that. So there is a spirit soul which is existing in this material body. That is the first point which is to be understood and reminded again and again, because in the name of science and modern advancement these things are pushed aside time and again. So it is good to repeat and be fixed in this understanding that how this material body is not our true nature, and that the eternal spirit soul is the actual driver. So now we are seeing here in today's episode, today's verse, today's shloka, that so these living entities, how they are engaged, how they have actually come into existence. These questions may come to the mind, that how previously this eternal spirit soul was there serving in the abode of the Supreme Lord. How come it takes on the engagement? How does this process actually happen? So here we are seeing this episode of Jaya and Vijaya, and we can understand and we can take more clarity in this picture that how this happens. So it is described here. Diter Jathara Nirvishtam Kashyapam Teja Ulbanam. So Diter Jathara, in the womb of Diti. So they entered. How they entered? Kashyapam Teja Ulbanam. So Teja means semen, Kashyapam means of Kashyapa Muni. So this semen with taking shelter of the semen of Kashyapa Muni. So these living entities, they entered the womb of Mother Diti. So we read this episode previously in the 14th chapter, that how they conceived, how they engaged in the sexual activity at a improper time, at the Sandhya time, which is not appropriate for conception. So we can understand like that because this is Lord's arrangement also, that he wanted these things to happen, but at the same time he ensures that all the principles are followed. Although his will takes the topmost preference and priority in the happenings, just as we saw in the present episode, that although so many unusual things were happening in this episode, that the sages becoming angry, and that the doorkeeper stopping the sages, which they ordinarily would not have, and the Supreme Lord allowing this curse to happen, this incident to happen. Although he's the supreme controller, he could have inspired anyhow even the sages to not do it, or by his personal presence also he could have checked that activity. But because his desire, his will was there to send these two living entities to the material world so that he can fulfill his desire of fighting. So this happened. So ultimately his will is supreme, but at the same time we see that all the principles mentioned in the Shastra, they are also followed. So just like this this Siddhanta is there, this principle is there. So, as we read in the present purport, so how the living entity is being injected in the womb of the mother. So, that same principle was being followed, was followed in this episode as well. So, like this, they entered the body of the mother, and as per the principles of the material nature, workings of the material nature, so they developed their material bodies and they came out as demons. So this is another point to be understood, that material body, which modern science, modern people, modern scientific understanding doesn't speak about, but here we see that. So the material body is just not the outer gross body, but there is also the subtle body involved, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So which brings out the impressions of previous lifetimes, previous happenings, whatever has happened in the past. So accordingly, so the mentality also comes along with the body. This is very important point to understand. We'll see how. So because of their previous samskaras, so the reactions continue and one takes on a certain kind of mentality. So therefore, again and again, so the Shastra recommends that one should lead a pious dharmic life and practice spiritual life. The best path is to take on bhakti yoga, shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu, smaranam, pada sevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakhyam, atma nivedanam. So that one at least purifies his existence in this material life, and like that one continues his upward journey, his progressive path. He should not he should not digress, having attained this material form of life, having attained this human form of life. So that opportunity is there to attain, to go higher and higher. So therefore this is discussed, that one should constantly endeavor for upgrading or for elevating his existence, his spiritual existence, because this one material life, this one life is not all in all. So again, coming back to the point that just not the gross material body, but there is the subtle body which has all the past samskaras, the impressions of the past lifetimes, past karmic reactions, and accordingly one takes on, one gets a birth according to his past karma in this material world. He gets certain material circumstances through which he has to again go further, and therefore if he has acted in a spiritual way in his past lives, if he has acted for his gradual upliftment, so then he will get a situation from where he can advance further. Otherwise, an unfortunate situation is awaiting him in this present life also, and in the future also he is going to go down. So like that we see that this subtle body with its impressions and samskaras is also active here. And how should this act of conception, how should the act of childbirth be taken into picture is also described. Is also very clearly, Prabhupada has given very clear instructions of how one should enter into the grahastha ashrama and how one should follow the garbhadhana samskara process, which is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. So often, time and again, Srila Prabhupada used this word, don't beget children like cats and dogs. So that famous quote is there, famous saying is there, that most people are born over a bottle of wine on a Saturday night. Actually, that famous singer John Lennon, I think he used it in reference to one of his sons, that he was born like that. So the Western world during those times, we know that these personalities, John Lennon and all, they were quite reputed they had good fame in the material existence, and somehow they came in touch with Srila Prabhupada also. John Lennon and his friend George Harrison, and their group, the Beatles. So anyways, they were quite famous in those times, and in the Western world this was going on. People, men and women would come together, boys and girls, they would come together, and without any marital knot, they would be staying. Everyone knows this. And now this is happening in India also. And the bad part is that it has been legalized also. So So great students of modern education. So they go to Harvard and study, and then they come back to India and they teach India how to live. They teach this great country. It is great because of its Vedic heritage and the Shastra which is there, and the knowledge of Shastra, knowledge of scriptures. But these so-called intelligent people, so getting knowledge from the modern education through these modern reputed institutes, they come to India and they they present these big theories, and they decide what kind of law and order should be maintained in this country. So what they have decided is that sexual intercourse is legal before marriage, and boys and girls can stay together even if they are not married, and like that. But practically we are seeing that they are destroying the family system by doing this. So this is discussed in the Bhagavad Gita also, first chapter. Sankaro narakayaiva kulagnanam kulasya patanti pitaro yesham lupta pindotaka kriya. So these Varna Sankaras, they will come, they will be born. So Arjuna is discussing the evil aftermath of the war of Kurukshetra if he engages in that. So as part of that, he is feeling that by killing the men, so the women class will become polluted, and because of that, good progeny will not be there. So for good progeny to come into picture, so this Grahastha ashrama has to be there. So following of these Vedic principles, the Garbhadana Samskara, all this has to be followed to bring a pious living entity to this material world, so that again this process of gradual upliftment continues, spiritual upliftment continues. So that the goal of human form of life is not forgotten. But in the present hedonistic, materialistic, sense gratifying society, so this point is always kept, it's always neglected, it is not even kept in consideration. It is always neglected, and the only thing which is most important is somehow or other satisfy your senses. So if you have some necessity, somehow or other get money. If you can't earn money, you get loan. Somehow or other just engage in sense gratification, and just forget about any other controller or any other thing that you are responsible for. But this is very dangerous path, as we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita. So this is going on. So Arjuna was mentioning this, that by giving up this process of means by killing this, destroying this family system, by killing all the pious men in the battlefield, so the family system will be destroyed, and as a result all these Sankaras will come, and what they will do, Varna Sankaras will come, and what they will do is they will stop the process of offering oblations and sacrifices for the forefathers. So we understand that the living entity, as per the natural flow during the course of his life, so there are Shodasha Samskaras. One of the Samskaras is mentioned in the present purport, the first Samskara, Garbhadana Samskaras, and then there are other 15 Samskaras ending in the Antyaveshti, or the final rites after the death of the particular body. But this is obviously, understand, it is in human society. So after the death of the human being, so his family members are supposed to perform Shraddha ceremony, offer oblation, offer Pindadana to him, so that he is liberated from the different materialistic systems. Sometimes Prabhupada discusses in the purport in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, so that how sometimes even the forefathers may not even get material bodies, and they may live in subtle bodies as ghosts. So to liberate these forefathers, so it is very important to offer the oblations, and to understand that there is some effect of this. So a pious jiva is required. So we see that present modern atheistic society, so people don't have any faith in any of the ritualistic processes, any of the processes that we follow in the Vedic scriptures. They just give the argument that who has seen where the particular person, whether he is getting or no. I'm speaking about this offering of Shraddha Pindadana to forefathers. So they want everything to be seen by their naked eyes, which is a very, very basic and naive argument, because even in their so-called atheistic, in their so-called advanced in a scientific society, So there are so many things which they don't see, but still they accept their existence and their fact. But still, when we speak about anything beyond our sense perception through the eye of the Shastra, so they bring up such questions, and there is all, so they don't accept it. So the point is, they don't have sufficient intelligence. Intelligence means not just in the matter of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So that we understand that that intelligence they have more than required. Dushkriti, Prabhupada explains in Bhagavad Gita. Kriti means meritorious. So these Dushkritis are also intelligent. They also have some merit, but they are using it for the degrading purpose, or for unnecessary purposes. So similarly, these atheistic jivas, atheistic conditioned human beings, those who are not fit to be called as human beings, as per that famous shloka of Hitopadesha. So they don't understand this particular perspective, that there is the living entity and that something has to be offered to them, and because of that they don't perform these rites. So that is what is mentioned in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna is mentioning that point, lupta pindodaka kriya. So that this process, or this system of offering food, shraddha, to the forefathers will be lost. There Prabhupada also mentions that Vishnu Prasada should be offered, Vishnu or Krishna Prasada, so that the forefathers are liberated. Because Vishnu or Krishna Prasada, as we understand from Bhagavad Gita, it is Mukta Sangha. Yagya Sishta Sino Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishai Bunjante Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pacyanti Atma Karanat. So Yagya Sishta Sino Santa. So like that it is discussed there in the third chapter, that how even those who are presently existing in this material body will also be liberated by taking Krishna Prasada. So certainly, so those forefathers who are somehow in some other material situation and not liberated and trapped, so they can be liberated by offering of Vishnu Prasada. So like that. So that has to be understood. And again, bringing of pious souls to this material world by following all the rituals and having a sober state of mind while conception is also an important point to be understood here. So we read in that whole episode in the 14th chapter that how his wife, Kashyapa Muni's wife Diti, so she enticed him into engaging in sexual intercourse with him at the wrong time. And certainly we understand that Kashyapa Muni was also not in a proper state of mind. Otherwise he could have controlled this. We read this episode in detail in the 14th chapter. So still he engaged in the forbidden act, and somehow, because his mind was not in order. So the consciousness of the father, so at the time of begetting the child, is also very important. So that goes inside the living entity. I mean to say that is the consciousness with which the living entity who is going to come is going to be born of or born with. So therefore it is very important to be very sober. It is very important activity to be undertaken in the Grihastha ashrama. So the parents, the mother and father who are planning to bring their child, they should be very careful in this, and they should not neglect this activity. So they should not beget children like cats and dogs, as Srila Prabhupada has said. So they should follow the Vedic scriptures and follow. I remember one quote many years back I had read. Something was being circulated by a famous ISKCON guru. So he mentioned that he was instructing his disciples that before begetting children, chant at least 50 rounds so that your consciousness is in order, so that you bring the right kind of living entity. So we read in the Bhagavad Gita that how Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayate. So Arjuna asked this particular question, that somebody who has not fulfilled or not completed his progressive path, or completed his sufficient transcendental practice, and has not gone back home, back to Godhead, what is the destination for him? Will his not situation be like a riven cloud which is broken into pieces? This analogy he gives. So many times there are big clouds and wind breaks these clouds, and they scatter into small pieces, and eventually sometimes some of these clouds they diffuse and they lose their existence. So Arjuna is comparing the situation of an unsuccessful yogi with that, and he asked this particular question to Krishna, that does an unsuccessful yogi not become like such a cloud, such a riven cloud? So Krishna gives answer to this, that how a yogi, he gives two answers, whether if he has done long practice or whether if he has done short practice, what will happen. So ultimately that unsuccessful or incompleted transcendentalist, so he again takes birth in either aristocratic families or pious families, Shuchinam or Srimatam families, and again continues his progressive path. So the parents should ensure that they should know this instruction of Bhagavad Gita, that they should attract pious living entities, and it is required for the propagation of this movement also. So big acharyas, great acharyas, so they have prayed, we know at least in the instance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he prayed to the Supreme Lord that to send his associate, so that this transcendental path of bhakti will be propagated. And we know that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so then he appeared. So he was the last 10th son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He appeared in Jagannath Puri, and we hear about his pastimes. So how he was the key point in key personality who propagated this parampara, and like that we see that by the mercy of these acharyas, so this instruction is this knowledge is still prevailing, and jivas like us, so they are able to take advantage of this knowledge and try to take up to a progressive path in this otherwise unfortunate material existence. So like that, this point has to be also understood, the importance of samskaras, importance of garbhadhana samskara. Otherwise these Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu will be born, and we are seeing the present society is full of such personalities, because we see mostly that this process of or this system of following the samskaras, Vedic samskaras, Garbhadhana samskara, has been almost obsolete now, even in India also. So therefore we see that all demonic ideas are prevailing and propagating, and what we can say, they are growing nicely. So this science has to be understood. Without the knowledge of this science, so only cats and dogs will, as Prabhupada often put, so those jivas expert only in ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithuna, so will be born, and that the human goal of life will be compromised and lost. So like that, these are some points on today's verse and purport. There may be more points which we can discuss now.
So one thing was mentioned that these jivas, they carry their samskaras. According their past actions and all, their life will be there. They carry their samskaras. Then we are also saying that father's consciousness also will affect that.
So both things are there.
It is contradiction, right?
No, it is not contradiction. It is to be understood that they are complementary to each other. So the father will attract such a jiva who is pious if he is engaging.
That's okay, that is for father,
Then,
but means jivas.
Jiva, so that kind of jiva, so the conscious, whatever the pras sanskaras are there, we understand that they are with the subtle body. Jiva is perfectly pure in his spiritual state of existence. So with the subtle body, he takes birth in the womb of the new, he gets another body through the arrangement of material nature and through his mother. So if he has engaged in pious activities, so he will be born in, he will be attracted by, means that his soul and his subtle body will go to a devotee father or a pious father, and like that he will progress. And otherwise, if If he has not practiced in his past life, if he has been like a Varna Sankara, so then he will naturally be attracted by that kind of yoni where it's Friday night, Saturday night, bottle of wine on a Friday night. So they will be attracted by that kind of fathers. So here also we see that, so because they were cursed, so now their state was supposed to be, they were supposed to, these Jaya and Vijaya, they were supposed to go to a sinful state of existence. And at the same time, by the arrangement of the material nature and by the arrangement of Supreme Lord, it so happened that at the same time these Kashyapa and Diti, they engaged in this forbidden act with a bad state of consciousness. So these things somehow by the arrangement of nature they go like that. So they complement each other. They will not contradict. That way we have to understand.
This Varna Shankara unwanted children will be born. So ideally, human life is the topmost in living being. So if at all the unwanted children, what you mentioned, they should be take birth in the lower species life, right? Why human form of life is being taken?
So in human form also it is said, no? Chaturlakshani Manavaha. So in human form also there are 4 lakh varieties of species of life. So not all of them will have good consciousness. According to the modes of nature that they have acquired and according to their consciousness. Some will be in Sattva Guna more, some will be predominantly in Tamo Guna. So accordingly in human form also there are gradations and bifurcations. Not that all human beings are of one quality. So there is variety in human beings, in human form of life also. And accordingly those who are in lower rung, they are pious enough to get a human body, but they are not pious enough to be born as in the family of Shuchinam, Srimatam. So they take birth there. It is all a progressive ladder somewhere. Somewhere they have, according to their karma and their choice, their desires, they fit into this place. That is the perfect arrangement of the Lord. So like that 84 lakh species are also designed and 3 modes of nature are there. And a certain permutation and combination, and that's where they are born. And from there they have to again continue.
Shouting is not clear to that, because that is okay. It is a complementary. But how consciousness will affect that samskara of that child?
It is not affecting the samskara of the child. The child with a particular samskara is attracted.
That's okay, but father consciousness also important we are discussing while doing that activity.
So the point is that father should try to attract, parents should try to bring pious living and those living entities.
But it will not affect. But in the lecture, it was mentioned that their consciousness.
No. It is mentioned in the purport. Okay, like that if you say that.
How it will affect? His samskaras.
So it is to be concluded that while conceiving the child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. So the living entity takes shelter within the semen of a father, which is injected in the womb of a mother, and with the help of mother's emulsified womb, the living entity grows a particular type of body. So yeah, basically I did not intend to say that it will affect the child in that sense, but that kind of living entity will be attracted. That is the point.
If the Dharmadana samskara is performed, then he will not be affected by the consciousness of the father. Father's consciousness is good only, no negative effect will be there. Means during that time, if they maintain their consciousness, especially.
Means some other effects also will be there. Apart from his samskara, some other effects also will be there.
Means he will carry his own karma, right?
That is one thing.
And from parents also it will go. Again, it is very subtle.
Parents also are dharma here actually.
So if you follow it, he will not carry that.
But everybody carries their own bag of karmas, but we never heard that other karmas.
No, it happens.
Fathers.
According to karma, also we come together. So these are subtle things. That book is there, Karvadam Samskara.
Mhm.
Especially they were to use it for young couples. So that book has to be promoted. Just like we give brahmacharya for students. We contact generally some devotee who is an astrologer. So when I contacted for one chart, he told his overall is not so good chart. Then he concluded if the parents follow Prakala Samskara, then the chart would be good. So important it is.
And Shraddha you were mentioning also, forefathers, even though they die naturally, they will not get next body.
Depends on their karma also and the family, but in pious families this tradition will be there that they will offer their oblations and they will go on. So even if they die naturally, they according to their karma they will go only, and at the same time again the same thing, it is complementary. So they will have good descendants also, they will who will offer them, and those who are devotees, so again Krishna will take care of them. But yeah, it is mentioned, no? Devarshi Bhuta Tandanam Triyam. Prabhupada mentions in the purport only. Although everyone should follow the example of the Shastra, Lord also himself performed this Shraddha ceremony for his father. We know he went to Gaya, there he met Ishwar Puri. So that should be followed as per the injunctions of the Shastra. And at the same time, if one is a pure devotee, Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanam, and there is no need. But generally it is not the case. Generally we are somewhere in the middle. So therefore it is recommended that we should follow the prescribed injunctions of the Shastra. So
usually they say only when they die like by suicide or something, only they not get the body, they'll be. So I'm just thinking how come forefathers will be sometimes.
yeah, sometimes if they are not pious, they are sinful, then they will be like
They
that.
may get a lower species of life.
They may get lower species also, and sometimes it depends on the karma. Again, it is in Bhagavad Gita it is said, no, karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, akarmanaschapi bodhavyam gahana karmano gati. So it is quite difficult to understand the subtle implications of karma, that exactly, just to give a simple example, if you eat 10 bananas, then how can you say tomorrow which one made your stomach go bad? You can't say. Similarly, karma is also like that. It is quite difficult to understand, therefore it is described in the Shastra. Do this, these are do's, these are don'ts. So follow them, don't do these things. And accordingly, your next, it is quite difficult. Gahana karmano gati, Krishna says. It is difficult to understand the implications of karma. So we can't go more deep into that. But basic things we can understand, that what is sinful life. We know that these four pillars of sinful life, that should be avoided. And pious activity, whatever is there, that we know. And at the same time, we know the transcendental path of bhakti, which is transcendental to everything. But because we are conditioned, so we are not practicing we are not still on the advanced transcendental level. So therefore, for us, there is regulative path of bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, Vidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, and Raga Bhakti. So therefore we follow Raga Marga of Bhakti, which has again two divisions, and one of them is Vaidhi Bhakti, which is devotional service, pure devotional service in the mood of Vrindavana, but presently we are at the stage of rules and regulations, so we follow like that. And gradually we advance, and once we reach the most perfect level, then there is no other material process will not be applicable. Nothing will be applicable, because when one has transcended that. But until we reach that point, so then everything will have its effect, and like that it has to be followed.
Also, you have seen like you said, if you have done a good class, they'll get in a good family. Parents will be doing, but it will be other way around. Usually, parents will not be good, but they like Prahlad, they see vice versa.
That is situation of the present, unfortunate situation. Of course, Prahlad, the example is unique. Again, he is also transcendental, and he can appear anywhere.
Even in generally, also you see.
Generally, so no, that is one point I didn't mention that. But generally, in present society, ISKCON devotees, they think that, okay, we are chanting Hare Krishna and we are devotees. So now our children, oh, my son, see, we are all both devotees, we are chanting, and he is like this demon. But the point is how much you are surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So that has to be seen. So sometimes they will not follow, as often it is discussed here. Prabhuji Priyavantu mentions that. So Vikarma Yoga. So on one side they chant Hare Krishna, and other side they don't stop. They don't understand that their sinful life is going on by engaging in this, by mixing with this modern materialistic society. So therefore they get the reactions.
And also it could be previous karmas also.
Yeah, previous karma is there only, and this also takes place in conjunction with that. So like that it goes on. Varnashrama is the solution. We have a proper dharmic society based on the Varnashrama principles. So then such issues will not come. Actually, somebody had observed, somebody made a report. And we can see also many of the ISKCON devotees, their children are not devotees. Generally, that is the case. So because of this reason, because there is no proper system of cultivating them, and we have to understand that what kind of bhakti we are doing. So it is not up to the mark, that surrender is not sufficient. Sharanagati is required, dedication is required. Then we will see the results also. Otherwise, karmic effects will be seen.
In this verse, Bhakta Pravaro comes. So Prahlad Maharaj also is referred as Pravara and Bhagavatam. So we say after Narasimha Maharaj, we say Bhakta Pravara, we don't say Bhakta Prahlad. So another thing was, I was thinking that Vedic culture supported actually being away from self-gratification. We know that only in the ashram that is allowed, and that too with so many rules and regulations. So nowadays there is concept of bedroom. It was not there before. Even recently, I mean to say, Guru Maharaj he says, sorry, Vikas Maharaj he mentions in his lectures, some lecture I heard that he used to see so many families stay in one room actually, one hall together. But now this is not at all possible because of nuclear families. So yeah, there were inner chambers in a house actually, where woman used to stay and men used to stay separately. Only for certain times when come together like that. So culture encouraged this remaining away from self gratification. So everyone's consciousness was very nice. Yeah, and Priyantu he generally often quotes. I think Brahmanas or whatever, elevated people, they have sex only for producing children. So not like now they use so many contraceptives. So that is the reason the progeny is good. So like that.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.